We're rolling? All right, we're live. Melissa Core.
Ready.
So happy to have you on Country Drive.
Happy to be here. Thanks for that.
You guys have been amazing to work with, and your career is simply amazing, so let's dig in.
Oh, gosh. How far?
If you would, start by introducing yourself and tell people everything you do. Mm-hmm. Because you do so much that I thought it might be easier just to tell people what you don't do.
Yeah, okay. I could still go for a while. I'm Melissa Corcaballo. I'm the CEO of Dead Horse Branding, and I actually co-founded it with my now husband, which has been pretty amazing. And at Dead Horse, what really happened was Rick and I were doing a fashion line at the time, and he's this ultra creative, amazing individual that sees brands and is a designer, is a painter, is a graphic designer, is a strategist. And as I was watching him and his career as a musician and a designer and all these things, I'm really big at sales and the sales component. And he was packaging things up so perfectly that made the sales component for me so easy. So as he's a musician and a touring singer-songwriter, and I've been in the music business on the business side as management, booking, radio, we started to see these really big gaps in artistry building, brand building as a whole, so fashion brands, beauty, you name it, and talent. And so we decided that all these 7 branding formulas need to be under one roof. So we put them under one roof. So between Rick and I, we do 3.5 formulas each, and then our teams are an extension of us. But if you ask me and my staff and Rick, he struggles to have team members underneath him from a design standpoint because his eyes are just too fucking good.
Yes.
And he expects that quality from everyone, and that can sometimes be the detriment of such a creative individual.
Steve Jobs comes to mind.
Steve Jobs comes to mind. Picasso comes to mind. There was this one auto sales guy one time who there was a little ding in Rick's truck, and, it bugged him. Because again, his eyes, he sees it. And he's like, well, I don't want to repaint it because I know the paint job's not going to be the same. And he's like, unless I'm doing it. And I'm like, well, you don't have enough time. I said, just let these guys do it. He let him do it, and it was worse. A ding turned into the whole paint job just being terrible, so he doesn't let that go till this day.
I love it.
He's a funny guy.
One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was, so at Dead Horse, publicity and management are under one roof. Correct?
Correct.
Do most of your clients choose to have you do publicity and management?
Yes, and everything else. So, as you know, when you're managing a person, a talent, a brand, there are things that need to go into that management to make the brand work, right? And that could be photo shoots, websites, a redo of a logo design, graphic design, social media, press. So, the list goes on, marketing. And so if we sign talent and we are management, chances are 2 things. We do like to control the whole look of whoever we're working with because we know we're really good at it. So they end up hiring us because they know how strong our footprint is. And usually when they say, hey, I got this graphic designer to do this over here, what do you think? Rick's like, bin.
Yeah.
So they get sick of that, so they'll hire us just so it can get done. And then second of all, they hire us because we do all those facets. They go into representing a brand or a talent.
Well, I'm probably about to piss off some publicists and management companies, but are you familiar with integrated marketing communication?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things, and this is like an endorsement for your kind of company, is there was a time where companies had publicists, advertisers, the chief marketing officer, the CFO, maybe the spokesperson, and they were all not unified with one message. Mm-hmm. You might read a PR statement and it might be totally different than what an advertisement on TV was looking like. And so it was kind of fascinating to me when I was learning about Dead Horse that people can come and have this vertical integration to where you're making sure that no one is on a different page.
Mm-hmm. That's, the new publicist, everybody. That's exactly right. And I've always said, how much better is it to yell at one person than 5 different people from 5 different companies, right? So for me, it's all about streamlining communication, because what you're talking about is essentially communication, right? They're those flaws. People are not communicating to the next group of individuals what is needed. And it's never going smoothly like this. It's jumping over, it's coming back. It's an absolute mishmash of a map. So that communication and that integration is so important. And for me, and I think this is a little bit of an Australian trait as well, we just like to get shit done.
Yeah.
And we just got sick and tired of waiting for other companies or other segments of that industry to get their shit together. So we just kept going, okay, we'll come stronger there and build on that and build on that. I mean, I didn't go to school for any of this. Right. I didn't go to school.
Well, creatives are tough to keep inside the classroom. Creatives need space. And a classroom is not really space.
And it took me a long time to realize that. I, for a long time, just thought the school system maybe failed me in my hometown, which, again, no offense to the school system, but I was just really hell-bent on, the education system doesn't suit me. When, in fact, that point is 100% correct. Look, not one system can fit everyone. It's impossible, right? And just like us at Dead Horse Branding, even though we do all the formulas, it's not for everyone. Our culture is not for everyone.
Right.
So you're 100% right. There are those types of creatives that absolutely can handle school and handle that environment. And I'm a split, right? I'm not 100% creative. I'm not 100% business. I'm sort of straight down the middle. But for me, nothing was moving fast enough. I needed to get my hands dirty. I wanted to get on the street, And I remember going to my principal and just saying, look, I know you want me to go through to year 11 and 12, but I can't. Like, I'm going to die. Like, you're just suffocating me. Let me out.
Wow.
And I was actually a year younger than everybody else in my class. I started school at 4, going on 5 rather than 5 on 6. So I was even younger again. So you had to write me a special letter to the state.
Wow. Do you do mentoring for women in business?
I don't. I mean, it's nothing that I've sort of done professionally. I feel like as a company, we do it with our clients and anyone we can help along the way, but not sort of in a more professional capacity. No.
Well, I only ask because you have an inspiring story.
Well, thank you.
When it comes to dropping out of high school and then becoming a successful businesswoman, we hear about it with Bill Gates. We hear about it with Steve Jobs. We don't hear about it with a lot of women.
Yeah, that's true. And, I think, it can be a little controversial to say you dropped out of school, right? Because especially in America, like the brand of America is school. And what university did you go to?
Conformity.
Right. So for a long time, like I'd never say anything. I would just zip if that question came up. Like, I graduated and then try to move on. And it took me a while to be able to own exactly what we're talking about, which sucks because you're not really being true to who you are and how you got where you are or where you're going. But for me, the big kicker was in 2020, we took Dead Horse Branding and what we do on the street and turned it into a curriculum. So now Rick and I both lecture at universities and we do masterclasses, and that's kind of unheard of.
Right.
For a high school dropout to do that. And I always like to say, look, it takes the rule breakers to make the new rules.
Okay.
Kind of are a bit more relaxed and flexible, because a lot of those making the rules are those straighty 180 people that go through. And we have certain family members that when we said we're going to lecture and do all this, they were like, you can't do that. And I said, why not? Well, you don't have a degree. You don't know how to teach. And I was like, interesting. Well, we'll see, won't we?
Right. But I appreciate that there are schools that are allowing someone without a degree, according to whatever her words were, to come in and say, look, there's a way to think bigger sometimes. There's a way to think creatively. Take what you're applying in this classroom, but, sometimes you also have to count on your brain to take you other places than just the curriculum. Now, when you talk about doing these lectures, are you talking about Kennesaw State?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, specifically.
Joel Katz is a family friend.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, how awesome.
Yeah.
His program that he's created, which is led by Daniel Howes and Keith over there, they're so unique and so amazing in my opinion. The way they run that music business and entertainment program is off the charts.
Yeah.
and they understand, like, yes, don't get me wrong, we all need to learn, right? And if that means going to school for you and getting that degree or that diploma or whatever, absolutely do it. It's just not necessarily for everyone. I learn better by, going under a mentor, or I learned better by working for someone for free for 6 months and just working with the CEO of one of the biggest marketing companies. That's where I was like, it cost me nothing. I could afford it. I was living at home. I wasn't in $150,000 debt at a university. But with Kennesaw, super affordable, makes sense. They give you so much outsiders coming in. So you don't feel like you're in this stagnant kind of education system that's, got nothing to do with the world. But more importantly, what I loved about them was they loved our idea. So our idea at that point was, look, we're doing these 7 formulas on the street. And everybody that's coming to us, every single artist and musician, literally has no idea how to thread these fields together and these formulas together. Imagine if they knew this information at school. Imagine how they could come out of that education realm and step into the workforce and go for their career stronger, harder, faster. So we kind of pitched that over, and I mean, Keith and Danny were just like, when do we start? And so from there, I was like, okay, these guys, they get it.
Did you feel like you were Coca-Cola giving away the formula?
No. And definitely not to those guys, just because there's such a loyal team in camp and it's so collaborative. But in general, no, because, well, there's more than 2 layers, but let's just pretend there's 2 layers. There's the formula, and the formulas are no secret. And I'll tell you, the number 1 is the strategy. It's no secret. Number 2 is the logo, the identity. What does your visual brand stand for? What does it look like? Is it edgy? Is it distressed? Yeah, but hey, it says what it says. You've got your colors. It is what it is, right? You've got one, as opposed to a blank screen of nothing. Okay. Then you take that and you go, okay, the next is a photo shoot. How do I take my logo, my brand, my message that speaks for me while I'm sleeping and turn that into photography and marketing assets? Then that goes into the website. Then it goes into the marketing and social media. Then it goes into the press and the distribution and licensing. So that's not unknown to anyone. What is unknown is obviously the order, which should never change, except for a couple of exceptions. But just because you have that formula now and just because you know the order doesn't mean you can execute it. It doesn't mean you can thread them all together. There are so many variables and so many strategies within each formula that it really does take a lot more than just knowing it to put it together. So I'm comfortable with having it out there.
Yeah, and the execution.
The execution is
really the margin where the margin happens.
It's everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of photography, did you guys do the pictures in Tony Brown's book?
We did.
They're amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now I know what your visual abilities are. And Rick did Bucks. Mm-hmm. Just Feel Better. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you guys are amazing visually.
He did. And look, Rick is, so I did grow up modeling and doing some of that, which was amazing. So I got to learn everything on, sort of in front of the camera. And I used to work with photographers that did film. So there was none of this quick digital, move on, change your clothes. No, I was in one position for 4 hours until the sun went down. And it was bloody painful. So all the supermodels out there, my heart goes out to you. Not because you, obviously because it's hard physically, not because you're beautiful. My heart doesn't go out to you for that. You're lucky there. But so I had that part. And then again, Rick is an incredible artist. So he knows light, shade, tones. He's an incredible Photoshop artist as well. So if any lighting or something doesn't make sense, he can do things wonderful. But together, and this is what's so funny, I can't shoot on my own. I need him. I need him to set up the lighting, to help dial it in, sort of more of that tech side. I love what he brings to the table. So I really don't shoot without him, and he really doesn't shoot without me, because I come in on composition. I come in on what that framing's going to look like. So we both have these kind of 2 areas that cross over, just like the company. But we would argue about who took what photo in the book, because we set it up together and we get it going. Then I'd be shooting some, he'd be shooting some. Okay. And we'd play back and forth of each other's assistant. And if I saw something, I'd be like, give me the camera. And I'd get in, he'd be like, hey, I want to get this shot. So we'd laugh about who took what photo. And one time in the book, there's a picture of Tony Brown. It was right in the middle when he was recording Cyndi Lauper for her Detour album, when she went country. And it was lunch break. Studio was clear. We wanted to grab some shots of him in that moment for the book. And so Tony's, on the desk. It's beautiful. It's black and white. There's lighting up. And I'm like, I took that shot, Rick. He's like, Mel, you didn't. I'm like, I did. I remember taking it. He lifts his lighting up on his computer, and there I am in the corner with a clipboard watching everything.
Oh, goodness.
And I'm like, damn it, I didn't take that one. But so it's fun because we both go back and forth. But he's an amazing visual artist. I mean, Buck Johnson, he did Just Feel Better, that video. Yeah. And then he did our Australian artist, country rock female artist, Jane Denham, with Colt Ford's single Moonshine. And he actually directed that with the Dead Horse team, Brittany and Danielle, whilst he was in Australia. They had him on video screen. And he was having to direct it all at like 3 a.m.
Wow.
4 a.m.
That must have been just before he had his heart attack.
Yeah. So
Colt
about
Ford.
6 months,
Okay.
7 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another reason I wanted to talk to you was cancel culture. Based on your discipline, I want to know what you think about it.
Oh, man. It's a whole thing. I'm going to back that up with a question for a second.
Okay.
Is there someone that you think has been canceled that didn't deserve it?
Lots of people.
Who would you say straight away?
Oh, goodness. Aziz Ansari.
Okay.
So Aziz Ansari is a comedian I like, and he seems to be politically very liberal, and nothing wrong with it. People have their political views, and I appreciate all of them. I'm just kind of down the middle.
Right.
There ended up being a negative headline about him where a woman, and it was in the Me Too movement, there was a woman who didn't have a good date with him. She did some things, but she regretted them. The headline made it sound like he was a jerk and forced himself on her. Once you read the article, you learned that it wasn't that, but someone like him took it very sensitively. He did not want to have his name out there in that sense because most people just read the headline. We're getting to a point now where in the era of AI and fake news, I could easily go, and this is moving on from Aziz, I could easily go and say, this is a tweet from Melissa Core from 8 years ago. She deleted it, but I dug it up. And it could have something written on there terrible. And now everyone thinks that's yours, but it's just me recreating it. So I wanted to ask you, was the intersection of AI, technology, cancel culture, and us not knowing, forgive me for the lack of a better term, but what is truly fake news, and how you're thinking about that in the future for contingency planning or strategically planning for that?
It's a great question. I'm going to say what I want to say right off my tongue. People are going to be people, regardless of the mediums that are available to them today, right? If we're not canceling people through digital media opportunities like social media, if we're not canceling brands and boycotting them, through not going through X franchises drive-through because they stand for this, this, or this. Back in the day, the same thing's happening, but just in the newspaper, right? So it's not like we're doing anything different as individuals. It's just there are more voices that have more platforms to be a lot more vocal, right? So what do we do to combat that? That really comes back to strategy of the brand. And this is where we have to think about all those things before we build a brand, get it out into the system and go. I've had a couple of clients that have had this issue. They've come across as non-political brands, and then they've come out and they've made a statement that's gone left or right, and we've had people lose contracts, endorsements, people boycotting certain, again, franchises, and it's really tough, but you've got to go back to that strategy and you've got to build your business right and your brand right from the get-go. Who are you? What do you want to talk about? Do you care if people are going to hate you for what you talk about? You have to really get that out at the front. And we encourage all brands, talent to get it out at the front and then follow the map, right? You can always change your map. You can always edit it. That's fine. But you shouldn't do it alone. You should do it with a group of professionals, individuals that know and can see The variables are going to take place, the strategies that need to be in place. And then there's the flip side. There's those that don't really pay attention. They just go, they just do, and then they hit that problem and they hit that wall. And then a PR company like us has to come in and do crisis PR management, right? And then that's basically trying to undo everything, change the direction, change the vision, change the message. And then we have to put all different marketing stops and collaborations and campaigns in place. I think with AI, I mean, that's such a loaded question for music, for branding, for intellectual property. And I'm very vocal about it within our team and with our clients. I don't stand for people stealing and using other people's intellectual property and passing it off as their own at all. And if you're going to do it, give the original creator credit. You know, if you are using it to edit it, to put your song or your face or your whatever you're doing, give the original content creator credit. And why wouldn't you? Like, what kind of person are you to where you think that's okay? Like, now that just goes back into the whole, like, kind of, what kind of person are you, right?
Right.
And again, there are some people that just don't care about that. There are some people that follow people that don't give a shit, step on people, don't have any morals. Myself and my team and where we come from are completely against that type of thing. Our culture is not soft. We're not pushovers by any mean, but we're lovers and we're fighters for good. And to me, that's not left. That's not right. It's got nothing to do with political sides. It's got to do with what's good and what's bad. Yeah. And if you have graduated your mental ability past the age of 4, you know what that is. You don't need to be told what's good and what's bad.
I know. But there's people, you know, sitting at home that, you know, you have such great artists that you work with. And sometimes people are sitting at home and they're lonely and they don't have success. And it becomes part of their desire to see if they can create some kind of falsehood about an artist, about a public figure, because they're getting to live this dream perhaps. And look at my life, it's nothing in their eyes. And they become very mean and they want to bring people down. And so I was just wondering how, you know, a publicist is looking at that, because it's going to get worse. I mean, we could probably say there's a strategy now where everything in the future is going to be, oh, that video is not real. But there are going to be fake videos coming out. And
there already is. And
your industry is the industry that's going to be on the front lines of combating that, in my opinion.
Absolutely. There's bullies everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And these are the same bullies that you face at school or in a family unit even, in a friendship unit. And then you've got the digital space where there's just, you know, it's amplified. And unfortunately, there are people that live their life through the eyes of other people, but then when they don't like something that got done or something went off brand or something hurt or offended them, which is pretty easy to do today,
right?
They lash out, right? So again, as the brand and as the artist, you've got 2 choices. You can hit back with love and kindness and respect. You can say, look, I'm sorry that offended you. It's not what I meant to do, or it's simply my opinion. But if you don't have anything nice to say, I'm going to block you. You know, you're not going to be able to comment. You won't be able to see any of my posts or anything. So you make the decision. I'll give you another chance, but it's up to you. And of course, the artist doesn't have to say that. It can come from management. It can come from representation. It can come from PR. And then, of course, today we're so lucky because we've got all these automated filters. So within social media, you can block certain words that are going to show up in someone's comment, right? So that means if someone's writing that word, their comment won't post.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. So there is a lot of those automations, which are fantastic. But then again, there's a flip side to that. So now it's like, okay, wow, look at this brand. Everyone's saying everything positive. They've got 100% positive feedback. And it's like, well, how'd that work?
Okay.
So then there's a negative to that too.
Right. So you're not getting the full story in that case.
You're not getting the full story. And I think that's definitely where we are now and where we're headed is we're not getting the full story on the left or on the right. We're just not. And I'm someone that craves and needs a full story. So if someone's coming to me, I'm going to suggest letting a full story get out there. But again, I'm all about truth and honesty. So if you're someone that has done something wrong, and you're not a great person and you support yourself for not being a great person, I'm not your person to represent you.
Right.
Like, that's just not me. There'll be someone else for that. I'm always flying the good flag.
One of the things I like about Dead Horse, relative to some other stuff that I've read from you guys, is, like if I read something from Dead Horse, it's just like an in-depth journey through the story of a song or a person's life. And this is another thing, kind of continuing with what we're talking about. I love it that, Dead Horse doesn't have to tell me this person sucks. You should never talk to them. Talk to our person. There's no comparison. There's no this, because this is the world we live in now, where politically, for me to get you to like me, I got to tell you how bad somebody else is. The thing I love about publicity, and it was kind of an unexpected thing for me that I've learned in the last year, is that they're just focused on the people they like and the people they work with. There is no comparison, compare and contrast, because comparison is the thief of joy, and it creates bitterness and divisiveness. And so it's really interesting when I read your stories and I'm thinking, wow, this is just positive.
Oh,
what a good world to live in when things are just positive.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that so much, because it is really what we try to do, and I love that you can read between the lines.
Yeah.
And you can see the stories there. I just had this conversation over the weekend. There is there's several publicists obviously in town, different companies, and I was hearing the story of a publicist that made out that a certain media platform they were working on got this incredible national publication because they'd stumbled across it, they'd heard it, they'd seen a release, whatever that promotion and marketing style was, to come across this incredible media platform that this publicist was promoting. But unfortunately, it came out that this publicist had actually used a negative style pitch about a guest that was on this media platform to send to another national publication to put a spotlight on it. And that doesn't sit well with me.
Right.
That doesn't sit well with me at all.
Right.
One, you're putting your brand in a bad spotlight. If you're going to have me on, then you're going to do a pitch out to Rolling Stone magazine and tell them some dirty information that happened behind the scenes, or, take an audio clip and contrive it and make it sound differently just to try and pop up your own media platform. That to me is a really big problem, And we just don't work like that at all. When I first moved here, I heard the term that Nashville is collaborative and LA is competitive, because I came from LA first. And I just think that is so on point. At least was. So on point.
Is it changing?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. But that collaboration is so big in my heart. And I take it back to, for me personally, I was an only child. I craved people. I craved family. I needed it, right? I was so lonely all the time. And what's interesting is, as creative as I might be, I was so terrible at making up my own games, and I had no imaginary friends. So that's interesting. But the collaboration process for me is, I've always been a team player.
Right.
Even when I would do sports, I hated sprinting by myself. I would excel and sort of kill my times in a relay with people. So I've always known that about myself. And I just, obviously everyone's different. But again, it just comes back to good and bad. Why would you do that to someone? Why would you walk over someone to get where you want to go? Don't you understand that someone's going to do that back to you? And if you got no concept of just heart, so it completely messes with me. I don't get it.
Most people that are like that probably already had it done to them. They become jaded.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying that myself, I've had terrible things happen. I've had staff compete and break their non-compete. I had some staff through COVID that actually one of my main employees actually started working for different firms behind my back and completely nearly collapsed our company through COVID, when I just became a new mum and had to take a step back and was trying to keep it all together. I mean, look, we all go through things. People have terrible things happen to them every day, but you've still got to lead.
Yeah.
from where you've got to lead from. And that's my belief. And that's the culture that we've created. And it goes through our staff, and it's really important that if you're coming to us, you're walking away feeling like your goals are being achieved. You're so happy with your life. Like, I want you to be happy with your life when you're working with us. If you don't want to call me and you dread calling me or any of our staff, that I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
That would really hurt me.
Yeah.
Because I came here with nothing but a suitcase to this country with nothing but a dream. And I was helped and handed opportunities in different areas by people. And that feeling, you can't buy that.
Yeah.
You can't buy it.
Since you came from Australia, what do you think? There's such a great relationship between Australia and the United States musically. What's the history there?
It's a good question.
Or is it just good artists that have come here and made an impact?
Australia is so interesting, and we have the pleasure of working in both countries with talent in both sectors, some that stay, obviously, US-based, Australian-based, and then some that pollinate and cross over. And I always say, like, from a press standpoint, and Danielle knows this because she does it all the time, if we have an Aussie artist and we're doing an American press release, we write a particular way and a particular style for the American media. And then we have to write a different way for the Australian media. So same message, delivered differently to both countries and cultures. In Australia, and Australia wouldn't mind me saying this because this is how we speak, we have to dumb it down. All right? Australia has a tall poppy syndrome where if you start getting too high and above your boots, that doesn't mean necessarily famous. Like, we know that we have famous people kind of within Australia, TV hosts and celebrities and whatnot. It means ego. If your ego gets too big, we cut you right down, like back to a weed.
That's what you need.
Right? But in America, you don't. You elevate the ego.
Okay.
And it becomes this like untouchable morsel. They're bigger and they're like, we feed ego. So it's so interesting because our music culture is pretty chill because of that mentality. No one's walking around on a red carpet like this. No one's, it's pretty chill. If you're on a private jet, it's kind of like a little under the radar, like, oh, bit embarrassing. Like, don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like there's just not that persona and there's not that ego. It's not how Australia's built. But when Americans come over or people from overseas come over and they're on a private jet and they're coming out on a red carpet, we eat that shit up. So it's like, huh? So our culture is based on, if you're trying to do it within Australia, come on, get realistic. But did you hear Taylor Swift's coming over and she's flying over on a jet and she's going to be at this special bar and it's VIP and it's $1,000 a ticket and they're like all there. And that's just not Taylor. It's kind of everyone, any TV celebrity. So it's crazy. And it's interesting. But Australia has so much talent and it is unfortunate that they have to leave Australia to come over here a lot of the time because there's a shelf, right? And I would not say I have figured it out, but I have done enough study over the last 20 years of me being in the music business in both places that I know what's happening and I know what's gone wrong, continuing to go wrong. And so we're actually putting some things in place right now with a couple of amazing people from Nashville that are part of record labels and live touring. And we're trying to really shift and do some cool stuff to inject back into Australia to educate and bring Americans over, bring them to the doorstep so they don't have to keep coming over here and show them kind of how it's done on their own soil.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that'll start to spread like wildfire.
So American artists are appreciated in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Did Taylor Swift go through there on her?
Oh, yeah.
Was it huge?
Oh, I don't think you could see Sydney. I mean, it was just people.
Wow.
And I mean, Pink, they broke Pink in Australia first. She actually blew up in Australia first.
So L.A. Reid sent her over there?
I don't know who, but she broke and became massive and just kicked off. And then when she went back to the US, it just elevated everything.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's very much how all the British,
cool.
Jimi Hendrix had to go over to London and come back.
Yep.
Speaking of Jimmy, do you deal with his family?
Yeah. So
What do you do for the Hendrix family?
Yeah, so Tina Hendrix, his niece, she is an awesome individual. She has the Hendrix Music Academy. And they hired us and we worked together to actually develop a treatment for her story and her documentary, which was really, really cool to put together because, that family is quite split.
Yes.
And it's not my story to tell, and it's still in the works getting put together.
Okay.
So that's been really fun. And then we also got to redesign the website and the brand and the mission and everything that they're doing, because through the Hendrix Music Academy, what she really concentrates on is not only continuing to teach music and Jimmy's obviously legacy and style of music, but she's getting people off the street. She's getting children off the street. She's feeding them, she's housing them, and she's teaching them music. So it's quite an incredible operation, and we were so thankful that they came to us when they did. And, like many brands, we work with them for maybe 6 months or 12 months, and then they're good, they go, and then they'll come back, and then maybe there'll be some projects that linger around and last longer. For someone like us, and especially contractually, and I think this is important, we don't lock people into lifetime things, So we're always, very respectful of time and meeting our markers, return on investment. But she's incredible, and there's more to come from her.
That's awesome. How great would it have been to have Jimi Hendrix as a client?
My gosh. I mean, we got the next best thing, in my opinion, which is Bo Diddley, the Bo Diddley estate.
Right.
And
Bo,
that has been amazing. And Rick has been so instrumental in heading up the new licensing deals, sort of the new vision, the strategy, the website. It took out Best Website Award for Graphic Design USA, which was awesome. And, marketing ideas and collaborations and partnerships. And then we are playing around right now with the opportunity to do a reimagined Bo Diddley album and cross-pollinate with pop, R&B, and country acts. So what an incredible name. And, I only found out about Bo Diddley because, again, I wouldn't say it didn't cross over into my waters and into my lane as I was growing up with music over in Australia. But about 8, even 9 years ago, we were doing an Elvis documentary, and Tony was in it. Tony Brown, of course, was in it. And we went to the premiere, and that's where I heard about Bo Diddley in the documentary. The documentary was basically stating that, Elvis was a Bo Diddley fan and did get a lot of his inspiration from Bo Diddley.
That's right.
And that just stuck with me, and I was like, who's Bo Diddley? What do you mean? Why isn't this bigger than it should be? This doesn't seem like it's enough information. And so I went down, I got with Rick, and we were like, huh. And so it's interesting that it was, maybe 5 years later that the entertainment attorney and the trustee of the Bo Diddley estate reached out to us and said, hey, we want to talk, and we feel like our missions might align here.
I came to know Bo Diddley when I was a kid because Bo Jackson was in a commercial with him. And he looks at Bo and says, Bo, you don't know Diddley. So that's
the saying, right?
Right. All right. Well, let's see what else we got here. Ben, what time do we start? I apologize.
You're 38 minutes into the episode. Right?
Oh, great. Awesome. So now let me ask you this, because I want to get into you as a person and how you became an entertainment icon. Mm-hmm. Who are your musical influences?
Oh, gosh. So many. Elvis, the Beatles, the Monkees. I mean, I know they weren't necessarily, they were probably more movie stars than musicians, but I grew up on all of that. Obviously, Paul McCartney is an individual. The Eagles, Linda Ronstadt, Celine Dion. I mean, a lot of it was my mom and dad's musical influence.
Yeah.
My dad is a guitarist, and he played in local bands in Australia forever. Then my mom used to do some musical theater, some shows, and she had a little duo and she was singing around. So I kind of grew up watching them play music from a very young age and obviously seeing them on stage. And so my mom had a little bit more of the country-esque than my dad. But then I obviously fell in love with pop music. You know, I was at the CD store every time the new Britney Spears single came out, or gosh, whoever. I mean, I was into everything top 10, top 20. Every Saturday morning, I would sit there in front of the TV from what I felt like was 7 a.m. to midday and watch music videos.
So was it your passion for music that kind of made you want to be in PR and management in music, or was that No, it wasn't actually. So I was a professional dancer. I was a touring entertainer, and I've always had a passion for music. Just like most people, it was my escape, it was my drug, sent me to places that let me get high in that way, and I'm just an entertainer at heart, right? And then eventually I just became more enthralled with the business side. Mm-hmm. And as your body starts to break down and you get older, I was like 20. But I'm like, okay, where am I going to go from here? And my parents did always say, you're going to need a backup, right? You're going to need a backup job because you hurt yourself, you're done. And you don't have a degree. And I was like, okay. So I just started going into the business side and radio, management, bookings. And I actually became obsessed with the people behind the talent and the artists as opposed to the artists anymore. Right.
They became my idols. I was just so enthralled with how people manage things and put things together, and wow, they're really responsible for that album or that collaboration or that press break. And so I was just on a mission. So really for me, the PR component, and I think why it's such a strong component in Dead Horse branding, is because it is such a sales tool, right? It is that first sales tool once the brand is built to launch it into the marketplace, and you're either gonna do well or do bad. And I like that challenge. I like that risk. So for me, the passion for PR came from the business side and then from the branding side and the sales side. I am through and through someone that loves flying the flag for people and products.
Yeah. I'm telling you, vertical integration, I honestly, before I found out about Dead Horse, I did not know that artists have access to like this vertical integration all under one roof.
They don't know still.
Let's make sure they know.
Some of them don't know still.
But that's what I don't think there's a lot of boutiques or firms out there. You know, you can go join. Coming through this process with doing a podcast, I've learned that you can contact a PR agency, and when you go down their list, you're like, how do they? There's no way they know all their clients. There's 6,000, and it's just the publicity. And I'm like, so it's so great to learn that like there's everything under one roof, and then look at the success of the artists that you guys have and the clients.
It speaks for itself.
Yeah,
it really does.
right.
And I think, look, traditional anything goes out the window and then it comes back in, right? Everything has its cycles. So traditional PR for me is not something we do. We don't sit around and wait for the artist or the talent to have some information to, get out into the marketplace and to the people. Now, with top A-list, well, yeah, you can barely keep up with the information that's coming out. So you don't really need to create new opportunities, right? However, because we're overachievers, we're always going to try and chime in on marketing collaborations, brand collaborations, elevating. What about this, suggesting to the label or management, what about this kind of vocal collab? What do you think? Like, that's how we operate. We're multi-level operators like that. But especially with your mid and smaller acts, and even your legacy acts that, whether they're, rest in peace artists that have deceased and moved on, but the estates are living on and the brand is living on, or whether they're just brands that hit their mark in the day and kind of don't know where to go, the mentality for us is you got to make it to talk about it. You've got to make something to talk about it. If we're just going to sit there and talk about your single, I'm bored.
Right.
I don't want to hear about that all day long. There's only so much of that I can take. And especially when we write press, like if I see one more press release open up with so-and-so releases their new debut single, I'm like, vomit. Like, okay, you've got to get me in some other way.
Right.
Too many people are releasing songs. We don't need to know you're releasing a song. We want to know something more about you, personal about you, in that top tier line and paragraph. And that's where I feel our writers, our team, especially between myself and Danielle, we have this mishmash of, you need a corporate style and a certain press style of writing, but then there's got to be this big creative writing component, which is quite unusual for press.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind me saying this because I'm speaking on behalf of your company and I'm not affiliated with it. But so there's this wrong interpretation of doing it your own way. Most people don't realize that Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings, who are two of the greatest outlaw country music singers of all time, ended up doing it their own way after they benefited from the system on some level. They were part of it, and then they found out what they don't want to be a part of. For a lot of independent artists out there, the reason I think like Dead Horse is such an asset is, yeah, you can do things your own way, but you need help. So when you have everything under one aspect, you want to go be your own independent creative artist, go be it, but you need help on this side. And you don't need to go out and hire 6 different people for 6 different jobs when it's under one roof. And so you can still be your independent self with that assistant. But you need that assistance to help elevate you so you can get your music out to everybody that you think deserves it.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And you've hit the nail on the head for so many but that don't understand it. And what we like to say is you can't spend brand credibility you don't have.
Right.
So what you're talking about and what I 100% agree with you on is once you've got your brand credibility, once you've established everything that you need to know and know what you don't know, and you've built and branded yourself and got something of credibility and something that you can actually sell and makes money, you can fucking go do whatever you want.
Amen.
Okay? Taylor did it. Like, that's the prime example. She wasn't country for 2 years and then went, throw it away. I'm going to try this pop thing. I mean, she built that baby. She built that beast, and she did it for a good 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And she honed in. She owned it. She nailed it. She can go do whatever she wants now. And she could even come back to country if she wants. But it's all about knowing the right time to do that. And at the end of the day, this is where the credibility spending comes in. If it doesn't work, guess what? No one's judging you. Like, that doesn't affect this.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're now being judged individually in 2 different areas.
Right.
Like, nobody goes, oh, George Clooney's 3 businesses he's had absolutely failed.
Right.
Well, no one even cares. George Clooney. He's the best male actor there is. Most good looking, blah, blah, blah. No one's criticized. I don't know if he's had 3 failed businesses.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But the point is, when that credibility is built.
Right.
Now, if you're going to ruin the credibility that you built yourself to be in that bubble, well, now we got a problem. Now we've got an issue where you're dismantling what you've built. That's a different thing. But like Cyndi Lauper coming over and doing a country album, she's literally got nothing to prove to anyone.
Right.
That was a passion project. That was incredible. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. But she can go do that. But a new artist today that's maybe been out for 2 or 3 years and really hasn't leveraged their brand yet and then wants to go and change it up on everyone, well, I'm going to get pissed.
Yeah.
Because I've invested in you and I want to see what I think I'm going to see. And if you change that and flip that on me too quickly when I'm not ready, I'm mad. I'm mad at you. And that's where we talk about brand loyalty, and that's where we talk about, when is the right time to evolve. That's a conversation you've got to have between you and a team.
Yeah. A house needs a foundation before it's built.
Absolutely. So you're 100% right. Once all these people had it together, knew what they knew, they go do what they want to do.
Right.
And so they should.
And that's not me giving advice because I'm not an artist. I can't give advice. But, just kind of being a fan and looking at it from the outside, I'm like, this is such an effective tool because, let's be honest, in a lot of ways these days, labels suck. They're not necessarily fighting for you. They want to get you to a greatest hits album, and then sometimes your contract's gone and you're somewhere else. But the people on your team, they're fighting for you. And you don't want 2 different aspects to your team, your publicist and your management, quarreling. So
no, you're exactly right. But talent will always come to me and say sort of exactly what you're saying, but on the flip side. Well, look at Taylor. She went and crossed over. She did what she wanted. It's like, yeah, but you've got to look at the history and the timing and when and why she did. So it's really hard for artists not to look at these other artists and compare themselves.
Yeah.
We're all sitting here going, you haven't even won one Grammy yet. Like, how are you even putting yourself in the same lane? So that's interesting. But it's all about learning what you don't know from people that have great success. Not good success, not a little bit of success, great success. You just can't afford to go a day in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Especially today.
Yeah.
You're up against so many people, and the labels, I mean, it's a whole different conversation, right? And a lot of them are doing things completely different to the next.
Yeah.
They're not all the same. One label might be doing one set of things, another's doing another. Like, they're all different. They've got all different operators with different ideas. And I'm so thankful that I've been able to understand and learn how Tony Brown used to operate everything. Absolutely incredible, and still incredible to this day. And then you kind of see what's happening now and you go, wow, okay. Yeah, I don't get a lot of what's going on today, but I also understand why it's needed, and some of that is out the window.
If you don't mind me chiming in here, congratulations to Tony Brown on becoming an icon. Mm-hmm. He's already an icon to me. But for me, the next stop is the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
I come from a generation where I can't begin to explain what my life would sound like without Tony Brown in it.
Wow.
So
that's amazing. I
really appreciate it's this ACMs, right?
Icon Award.
Thank you, ACM. Y'all are great. Country Music Hall of Fame. Let's get on it.
You're next, baby.
Please.
You're next.
And that's not just me.
In some good timing. No, look, everybody has said the same thing. I remember when I first met Tony 9 and a bit years ago, and I was just like, why aren't you in there?
Right.
He was like, well, Mel, there's a process. I'm like, no, there's not.
No, there's not.
I'm like, look at your body of work. What do you mean there's a process? And that is the most beautiful thing about Tony Brown. And that is how he literally speaks all the time. He's like, there are people in front of me, Mel. There are people that also deserve to be in there. And I'm here going, no, it's you. But yes, appreciate that.
I want to see him in there soon. Mm-hmm. So before we get out of here, we're going to do some of your socials, but I like to ask everybody this, and I just want to remind everybody before I ask you this, you are a woman who took a company from $0 in revenue to, can I just say millions?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have credibility with this question. The drive it takes to make it, and not just enjoy that moment of success, but sustain success over a long, remarkable career like you've achieved.
Oh, I don't know if you know the saying, I'm sure you do, but there is a saying that says entrepreneurs will avoid working 40 hours a week for someone else, basically in order to work 80 hours a week for themselves. And that is so true. It is so true, right? But that comes with a lot of sacrifices. It comes with so much. For an entrepreneur, in my experience and with other entrepreneurs I work with or for, it's do or die. There is no in the middle. If you're an in the middle entrepreneur that's like, I'm going to give it a shot and see how we go, look, all power to you. Hope you do really well. But in my experience, if it's not do or die, you probably won't make it. And for me, it was do or die. It is do or die. I got fired from I only been fired once. And that was from my first job in Nashville at a record label. And I saw how things were operating. I didn't get it. I saw people not being treated correctly. I saw operations really kind of sketchy and strange. And I voiced it, tried to change it, tried to help, put in overtime to see what I could do to make the system run better, and I got fired for stepping out of my box and for being too entrepreneurial, were his words. And I'll never forget those words, Melissa, you're too entrepreneurial. And I was like, that's interesting. I might go try that then. And I did. I didn't look back. But I've got to say, for most entrepreneurs, if you're having a bad day, you're having a fight with a family member, a friend, if you've lost a client, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling like a bad parent, whatever negative energy you have around you gets funneled into being a stronger entrepreneur. It doesn't go into the gym. It doesn't go into ice cream. It doesn't go into a new wardrobe for shopping. It literally goes into how do I fucking make my business stronger. Amen. And that's just the mind, that's just it. And I don't know why. I'm not a psychologist, but again, in my understanding, and I know it's how I work. It is my outlet. It is my love. It is everything. And again, I've had certain people in my life come my way and said, well, you became a new mom. Like, wouldn't you just let the business go? And I was like, oh, wow, you don't get it.
Right.
Wow. I didn't know people didn't get it. And I was like, you know what? No, I can't. As much as I love my child, I love me. And I love what I've built and my husband have built and the opportunities we get to create for other people. Like this isn't just about me. This is about something we've created that works, that our family, our staff could all have the opportunity to being partners in one day. Like, to me, this is just so much bigger. And some people don't see that. So my advice to those entrepreneurs that are on the shelf, that are in it, that are in the midst, you use all that negative to fuel for good. Amen. And to put into yourself and to power yourself. And one thing that someone said to me, and I'll never forget it, Darryl Robertson, a friend of mine since I was 20 years old here in Nashville. If you're going to rely on someone else to pay your wage and make your money, why wouldn't you invest in yourself? Mm-hmm. And I always loved that. Now, again, like we just said, it takes a certain character to do that. It's not suited for everyone. I've heard many entrepreneurs say, I had to get out of it. I got sick of worrying where the next paycheck was going to come from. If I was going to lose this client, sign this client. I get it. I've got tricks and trips to help with that though. But I get it. You have to be a certain kind of crazy.
A certain kind of crazy. A beautiful kind of crazy. And not fit for the classroom. I love that someone told me you're too entrepreneurial and you're like, well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'll go work with that. Thanks. And then we started the fashion line. And
it's a very nice compliment.
Yeah.
Ben, before we get out here, will you pull up those socials, please? We just want to show everybody the website real quick.
Yeah.
Obviously, here's my man, Tony Brown.
There he is. Always there.
So this is your website, everything on here. Look, you can barely even fit everything you do on one page.
I know.
So go check out the website and then the socials. We have Instagram up there. Yeah. And then people can find you where? At where else? Because for people that are just listening that can't see this.
Yeah, me personally, I'm Mrs. Dead Horse. I'm not super active. Don't you love that?
Yeah.
Everyone that manages other people's social media are like, I personally am not that active, but I'm Mrs. Dead Horse. But at deadhorsebranding.com is definitely where you can find us for Instagram, for Facebook. And then we are not really on TikTok yet, although Rick and I have some funny plans to do some stuff. And then our website is www.deadhorsebranding.com.
Okay, great. I talk shit about TikTok for so long, and then my mom broke me down and said, you need to get it to help grow your podcast, and now I have one.
You do. Look, all social media is great social media when you use it correctly.
Sometimes you have to swallow your pride.
You just got to do it. I think what happened with Facebook and Instagram is it was okay to kind of step back as the face, and let product speak for itself, where TikTok is, it's all you or go home.
Yeah.
And so for Rick and I, I'm like, what does my face look like today? Do I really want to get on camera? But you definitely need it.
I hope one day I'm able to crack the code and figure it out. But I do want to tell you, it's really been an honor finally getting to meet you. I told you before, I got to have a Zoom call with you one time, learned a lot from it, but I love what you guys do at Dead Horse, and I hope everyone goes and checks y'all out because y'all are amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Bye, Melissa. Bye, y'all.